Brian Carnes. I know a lot of faces in the room. I am a native Indian lander. Have lived here for 51 years, except for about 3 days I spent at York General Hospital before my mom and dad brought me home. I want to thank you for the opportunity to stand up here and speak in front of you today. It has been quite a rigorous go the last couple of weeks for all of us. I think this is like maybe the 6th time that we've gotten together to talk about our political views. And in some instances, we can probably all repeat the statements that everybody's saying tonight because we've heard them so many times now. Our state is at a historic crossroads, as is our nation. The events of the last couple of years has decimated our economy. It's hurt our businesses. We have probably people in this room, maybe a number of them, that are out of work. We have small business owners that are looking at the end of the day, end of the week, to see whether they got enough money to make the payroll the next week. We don't know where and when this is going to pull out. We just got to keep trusting and believing that if we keep going in the right direction, we're going to do it. To me, I feel like for this Senate seat, the right direction is a new start. As we look at things in Columbia and the entrenched politicians there, it comes to mind to me that we don't need politicians, we need statesmen. We need people that are willing to come and put their time in and then go back home and let somebody else do it. That's what the Founding Fathers believed in. That's what our nation was founded upon, was gentlemen farmer, plantation owners, business owners that took time away from their lives to go and help found this nation, to help write the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, to serve. But they served not to be there forever. They served to serve the people and the will of the people. And when they served and got finished with their service, they went back home and said, okay, it's your time to go. That's what we need in South Carolina. We have so many entrenched politicians, it is no wonder why we're in the mess that we're in. Right. When you look at the budget in this state from 2003 to 2008, if we had just practiced fiscal restraint, we would not be in near the mess we are now. If we had just capped our spending at population plus inflation, we would have had about a $1.4 billion surplus at the end of 2008, based upon what we received in taxes and what if we had capped on population plus inflation. Our budget would have been about $1 billion lower than it was in 2008. But we didn't have the restraint in Columbia to do that. That money came in and the politicians were sitting there ready to spend it. One of our biggest problems in the state is that we spend one-time monies on continuing programs, things that have to be funded over and over again. But when that big check comes in from our money, oh, we got to find a place to spend this. We need restraint. We need to cap our budget at population plus inflation and get things more in line. We need to reform our tax system here in South Carolina. Now, as I've gotten on the tax trail, and I've gotten on the campaign trail, and I've looked at this, I was the number 2 guy in the race, and the number 1 dropped out because of illness. And I've talked consistently about the same things every time I've talked about tax reform. I've talked about restructuring our government, talked about creating jobs, talking about transparency and term limits in government, because those things matter to the people. We can't trust the politicians in Columbia, those that have been there for 16, 20, 30 years, that they're going to make the decisions that need to be made to help turn the state around. Unfortunately, their track record runs against them, so I'm pretty sure in making that statement. But one of the things I've looked at and I think will work very good in this state is the Fair Tax Act. For those of you who are not familiar with the Fair Tax basically does away with payroll taxes, corporate income taxes, and it rolls it into our current sales tax structure and replaces it with sales tax, so it becomes a consumption tax. Those who use less pay less. Those who use more pay more. There's also a prebate built into there for people that fall below the poverty level, so that they're not hit hard, and it hits their budget hard. If we enacted the Fair Tax Act, it would basically be the same amount of revenue, but instead of you and I paying that tax out of our payroll taxes, we've got tourism that's coming in, we've got people that travel through our state and they purchase things, and every time they make a purchase, it helps offset the taxes that we have to pay. I think that's a pretty good system. But there's good foundation for supporting that as well. There are 9 states now that have a similar tax structure in the United States. From 2000 to 2010, in the last census numbers, those 9 states grew their jobs 35%. Now, if you looked at that based on 50 states, they probably should have grown their job rate 22, 23%. That says to me that what they're doing works, because businesses see that as an incentive to come in and set up their companies, because they know that they can attract good quality employees because of the benefits that they receive. The South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, another thing we need to look at is our property tax rate. When we changed the way we fund education a few years ago and passed Act 388, it was great for us, for some of us as homeowners. If you had a home that was more than $100,000 in value, then you got a break in your property tax. If your home was under $100,000 in value, then you didn't get a break because you were already receiving that break. But what happened is it threw a lot of that burden back onto our industry. Our property tax for industrial property in South Carolina is the 2nd highest in the nation. That's why when we attract a new business in, we have to give them a fee in lieu of tax deal so that we can sort of level the playing field and get things right. For commercial property, we're the 7th highest in the United States. Part of what's happened with Act 388, and I would support repealing that, replacing it with a better system, or working within the existing system and making it work for us, is they cap the amount of property tax increase that local counties and governments and school systems can put into place at population plus inflation. They'll do that for this legislation, but they won't do it for all the other legislation. But by doing that, you look at the good years, the local governments are going to raise their property taxes to the maximum, most likely. Because when you get to the bad years, like we're at right now, and everybody's struggling, they're still going to raise it to the maximum, but if they hadn't raised it before then, they're really going to be hurting. So it's got a built-in incentive in there for the local governments to raise their property taxes as much as possible. Small businesses in this state and in this nation provide the majority of jobs that we have. We have to support small businesses. We have to level the playing field for them. Big corporations come in, they get a fee in lieu of tax deal, and it's business as usual. For the small business owner, there's nothing there. We have to make it easier for small businesses to survive and grow in this state, or we're never going to get out of the economic mess that we're in. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. As everyone else has said, I'll be here afterwards, and I'll be glad to speak with each and every one of you. Thank you for the privilege of allowing me the opportunity to run in the Senate race and to put my conservative values forward and try to have the privilege of serving the people of this Senate district as your next ex-senator